So sales track review, we always do this for January 21st. Your first 6 lessons of sales track, this is your introduction. This is your starting point with the client. This is where you're going to have your first blush and really get to flex a little bit in introducing the program. Something that I would strongly stress is you should have a few 15-second commercials in your battery, in your 6-shooter, I guess would be a good way to put it, or in your quiver. These 15-second commercials are meant to generate interest from the individual that you're speaking to, curiosity. They are positioned to make people want to know more. They should also be light. They should be quick and to the point. That's why we call them a 15-second commercial. This is how you're going to move somebody through the processes with that initial conversation, and then move them into qualifiers and tie downs and your personal borrowed story, and then qualify them through a litmus test, and then set your appointment in stone. What I do want you to know is these do not have to occur in exactly the same order as I have them here, and in fact, it's a good idea to hit each one of these points, but it's not absolutely essential that you hit each one of these points. You may give the 15-second commercial and the person says, man, that sounds really interesting. You may move right into, would you like to meet so I could go over this with you? Or, wow, that sounds interesting. Can you tell me more? You might go from qualifiers and tie downs and move right into your personal borrowed story and say, well, let me tell you what the program's done for me, or let me tell you what the program's done for my family, or what the program's done for a friend. Do remember the first 6 lessons of sales track. If you are not a salesperson, dyed in the wool, if you came from some other industry, being a teacher, being something where you're really not dealing with the public, the greatest way to get the point across with this product is to share the information. Don't try to make it a sale. Just share the information with people. You have a bevy of videos and materials that you can send on to other individuals. Use the materials you have. Do not try to reinvent the wheel, and get people engaged and then move them forward to the next step. So our sales process is pretty simple, and over the next few weeks, we're going to go through our recruiting process, and you're going to see how that is very similar to the sales process, because in reality, when you are recruiting, you're truly selling. When you're selling, you're selling. But we try to make all of this, take away that pressure, take away that feeling of, oh man, I got to get this sale. Just look at that daily activity and look at this as sharing information. Look at it as a way to educate individuals and just share the information. The individuals that are interested or in need will see it, and they will understand it, and they will move towards it. Those that are not ready for it yet will not see the value and will move in a different direction. Once you've made that introduction, set up to send them videos, or do a live webinar for them, or meet with them in person. Your first true appointment that you're going to do with these individuals is to gather their numbers and build rapport and set up a follow-up appointment. Whenever you have a first appointment and you get the numbers that you need to run an analysis for an individual, do not leave that appointment without setting up your second appointment. And if you notice, appointments should be set up within 24 to 48 hours of initial information. This is to create that sense of urgency. This is also to let the clients know that you are very vested in them and that you want to move this process forward. I do need to have you all understand, it is very important that you let your client know what is going on and how it's going to go on and what your process is. We call this rules of engagement. We talked about this months ago. But this idea that, hey, we're going to have our first appointment, we're going to gather the numbers, we're going to look over that information. Then in that first appointment, at the end of it, once you get that information, okay, we're going to move, and I'm going to take this back. I'm going to make sure I dot the I's, cross the T's, that all this comes together properly for you. And then we are going to have our second appointment where what we're going to do is we're going to review the results, and you're not going to tell them we're going to go for closing. But that we're going to review the results, and we're going to be looking for a decision if this is the right thing for you or not. Chet just came in with a quote that I've never heard, and I actually really like this quote, and it's in regards to your process. It says, using this quote, marry, in other words, get married to, marry the process and divorce the outcome. I really like that, Chet. I'd never heard that before. Marry the process, get married to the process, and divorce the outcome. Really get your process down. Really get your steps down. Really get what it is that you want to do for the client, for the prospect, and how you want to navigate through that situation. Get that down. And if you have a very cleaned and polished approach, you have a myriad of 15-second commercials, a myriad of personal and borrowed stories, then you can make this a very organic process in just sharing the information with an individual. We talked last week about what is keeping us from achieving our potential, and what we found out was your inner monologue, my inner monologue, or your inner monologue can be very detrimental or be very beneficial. Having ambiguous goals, which we would just call dreams. Once you set a plan to your dreams, once you set a plan of action, then they become a goal. But just saying things like, I want to be a millionaire, or I want to have $50,000 by the end of the year in savings, but not really having a plan how to get there. I want to turn this business from making $3,000, $4,000 a month to making $10,000 to $15,000 a month, and I just hope that'll happen. That's not the way it comes together. You have to set up a plan of action. You have to set up some goals and ideas, and then follow through. This is the one thing that I find is very important when it comes to your business and your business success in general. Is it's one thing to have some ideas about how you want to go about it. It's another thing to build a plan of action. But the true key to all of this is follow through, is staying to your plan of action, staying to your process, and kind of grinding it out. This is where it becomes very beneficial to have a team and have other individuals that are going through the same process, that are going through the same situations. That idea of being able to share information, being able to share the positives and the negatives of your business really is a big piece in your success. Some people don't think they know enough. Get off of that one. There's enough materials there that explain the process, that explain the program. You have demos, you have analysis, you have presentations. Don't worry about if you know enough. Just be a good representative of the company. Get out there and share the information more like a teacher. Show them the information and then move them through the process. The idea of not wanting to offend anyone. Let me tell you something. I have had people that were offended that the program was not shared with them sooner. You mean you've been doing this for 2 years and you're just now calling me about this? This is something I've been looking for. This is something I needed. What was it that made you decide that I did not need to hear this information? Please do not make the decision as to who should hear the information and who should not. Just share it. And people, again, that are in need will come forward, and you're not going to offend them. Just move them through the process and move them through the process courteously. I don't have enough time to get this done. Where do I find the time? Well, that's just something we all have to deal with in any business or family or situation that we're dealing with. Confidence to share with family and friends. The only reason I bring up confidence to share with family and friends, if you have the confidence to share it with your family and friends, you should have the confidence to share it with anyone. Family and friends are the individuals. I sold cars for years. I've sold things for years that will come back and say, hey, this is going on with it. What can you do for me? And in reality, you were nothing more than a salesperson. There's not a lot you can do about it. But with your family and friends, they tend to expect a lot more out of you when you make a sale, not so much in the presentation, but once they purchase. So if you can develop that confidence to share it with your family and friends, then you have the confidence to share this with just about anyone. I want to go for a moment over here to Darlene real quick, and then I'm going to go to Joan. And Darlene, the question that I want you to answer for me if you can, and I know I have you there on the call, is what do you find with the people you work with? If it's not one of the things up here, could you maybe just cite one other thing that keep people from achieving their potential that you have recognized that's maybe not on the screen? Or is that okay with you, Darlene?
Sure. You've hit a bunch of them right here. The main thing is between their ears. That's the main thing that keeps them, their confidence, they're not wanting to do it. And you know what? Not making a priority. So it depends on if they're part-time or full-time. And then once you identify the hours they're going to spend on doing working the program and sharing the information, then they actually need to do it. So I hold them accountable for the time that they've committed. And that's one of the things that keeps them back. There's other things that come in place. And so it's commitment on what they want to, what they agree to doing, or wanting to learn the program in depth and make sure it works exactly word for word before they even tell anybody about it. Yep. Those are the two major things besides what you have up on the board. Because we all have that inner monologue.
So that's that thing about keeping, I'm really glad that you hit that point about staying in the library too long, trying to figure out exactly how this thing works in and out before you ever share it with anyone. People waste so much time in doing that. Darlene, thank you. That was that was really good. Yeah.
And what I compare it to is electricity. People ask me, now I've been with the program, 2005 or whatever, or 6. Yeah. The thing is that people want to know exactly, well, how does it work exactly? And I'll say, look, I can't tell you exactly how it works, just like I can't tell you exactly how electricity works. But I do know when I flip the switch, the lights better come on. So I expect it to do what it says it's going to do. I'm not going to try to analyze it. I know it works. I know I'm getting out of debt. If you want to get into more detail, watch your program and see how it works. But why don't you let me help you talk to the other people and not try to figure it out. Learn as you go. And that helps get them out of that analytical state of mind sometimes. Learn as you go and earn money as you go.
I think that's very smart. I think that's a very valuable piece of information that you just gave everybody there. So, Darlene, thank you, and thank Harry, and we'll come back to you right here near the end of the presentation. Thank you, Harry. Always a pleasure. We know you're there, buddy. All righty. Let me go ahead and pop you back on mute, and let me go over to Dr. Joan Hackenstad. And Dr. Joan, we haven't actually had her on the phone in a little while. Dr. Joan, how are you doing this evening?
I've missed you. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing very well. And I've missed you on some of the calls, and I'm just I know you've been there. I'm just glad to have you on the call tonight. And just everything that you do for the company, and Eric and your little boy, I'm sure is doing great. I'm sure you had a great Christmas and New Year's. We're way past that now. Can you believe we're actually almost past January? We're moving into February.
It's just going too fast. It is going way too fast.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. I mean, I turned 58 years of age in 1 month. Not even a month now. It's only a series of days. I can remember as a kid thinking about being 40 just seemed really, really old to me, and now I'm getting close to 60, and it's amazing to me where the time went by. So, yeah,
it's crazy. I turned 45 on Saturday.
Oh my goodness! Well, you don't look.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you. Then I really turned 35 on Saturday.
There you go. You turned 35 on Saturday.
No, I'm like 29. We'll see 29.
The way I've been looking lately, I think the way I've been looking lately, maybe I've turned 100 and I just don't know it.
Whatever.
But so anyway, I just wanted to, these are some of the main things that I have seen: that inner dialogue, ambiguous goals, confidence, time. Feeling scared to share the information, don't know enough, spending time in the library. Is there anything else that you can think of that you've seen with the people that you recruit that holds them up from achieving that potential, either with business or personal? We're talking a very round thing here when we say achieving our potential. Many times achieving potential in your personal life can help you achieve potential in your business life, and vice versa. Yep. So is there something that you could add to, I'm sure there is, that you think about, or when you bring people in, Darlene mentioned, I hold them accountable. I get a amount of time they're going to devote and all this, and I know you've been very good in your recruiting and your business. So is there something that you would like to share with the field that you find keeps people from their potential as well?
Well, I think there's two main things. I think you hit it on the mark with my inner monologue. We call it the stinking thinking gets in the way. But I think the one thing that we really don't touch on all that often is the time consideration. I see it on the screen, but a few years ago, I did a little study. A colleague, Kai Baker, out in Oregon, and I did a little study asking some people, hey, you joined Worth Unlimited. What's the number one thing that you want to get out of Worth Unlimited? And if you haven't achieved that already, why not? The first response that we got for the what do you want to achieve was they wanted to replace their current income with income from Worth Unlimited. So for those that had not done so, we asked, of course, why have you not achieved this yet? And the response was typically time. They just haven't really set the time to get that to happen. So what we've really done is not time management, because we're all adults. We should be able to manage our time well. But for those that say, gosh, there's just not enough hours in the day, we all have the same amount of hours. We all have other commitments outside of Worth Unlimited, whatever that looks like. We all have a life outside of Worth Unlimited. So what is it and how is it that some people can manage that time and really pull everything together and others can't? So we talk a lot about creating systems and having that duplicatable, replicatable process. But I think more importantly, it's about setting up a schedule. It's about starting from a blank schedule, Sunday through Saturday, input on there the most important things to you. And it comes back to Stephen Covey when he talks about the golf balls and the sand and this mat. And if you haven't heard that analogy, we can come back to it a little bit later. But it's about putting the most important things onto your schedule first. Put the things that are important to you. If you have a pesky job, put all the time that you put on for that. Put the time that you put on to spend time with family. Put time that for yourself. Put all those major things on there. Now put on the time that you're going to dedicate to Worth Unlimited. And then really make sure that you're concentrating on that time. If you have time dedicated to Worth Unlimited, you should be concentrating on Worth Unlimited and nothing else. What are you going to do to prospect? What are you going to do to market? Put that into your schedule. Make sure that you have time allocated for that so that you don't make an excuse. Treat this as a business, not as a hobby. The other thing, when people do say, gosh, there is just not enough time in the day to make this a reality, I go back to what one of my business coaches told me years ago when I was complaining of the same thing. He said, Joan, I want you to sit down and I want you to map out for the next month. I want you to map out what you do on a daily basis. And we're going to review this on a weekly basis. But I want to know, what time do you wake up? How long does it take you to brush your teeth? How long does it take you to get dressed? What do you do all day? And it was a really horrifying response at the end when we figured out how much time I actually spent watching TV. That pesky TV gets in the way. Yeah, it was amazing to me. I really did not believe I watched TV all that much. And it was hours upon hours that I spent each day doing it. And it just was dumbfounding to me how much time I spent doing busy work as opposed to productive work. So that was really something that was mind-boggling and changing for me. I now actually don't have cable. I don't have Netflix or anything of that other nature. And it's really about concentrating on productive work as opposed to that busy work. The last thing I'm going to throw out there real quick is that we all have a chicken list. It is that stinking thinking that gets in our way. It's our fear of not wanting to embarrass ourselves, fear of not wanting to say something wrong. It's that desire to be successful and that fear of being told no. It's that chicken list. We all have it. Even Darlene, even Mac, even me, all of us have some form of a chicken list. My strong suggestion, when you've mapped out your schedule for your week and you've allocated that time to Worth Unlimited, do your chicken list stuff first. That's what you need to concentrate on first. Usually the things that we dread the most are the things we need to do the most for our business. And quite frankly, if you want to have a successful business, you need to make yourself uncomfortable every single day. So do that chicken list stuff first, and then everything else just falls in line. That really has to be what you need to focus that time on. So really, I think the thinking, which you have done a phenomenal job talking about, and then that allocation of time is probably the number 2 issue that I hear most often.
That's awesome. Thank you very much, Dr. Joan, and always something very pertinent to bring to the table. And we do not talk about the time that much that it takes in allocating the time and holding yourself accountable to the time. Another thing that we don't talk a lot about in regards to this is just the last little slide I've got there, which is fear and uncertainty. The unknown. So many people are afraid of the unknown and how that comes together for them, just wanting to have something easy to move through. Many people get paralyzed with their own fear and their own uncertainty of the outcome. There's an old saying that there's a percentage in it. I'm just going to use the word amazing. It's amazing how many things that we worry about every single day that never come to pass. We worry ourselves with the idea of something happening, or how is this person going to respond, or how is this going to work out, or, what if they don't like my, we have to get over that when we're in this business. So Dr. Joan, thank you so much for your information. Darlene, thank you for your information. And Darlene came in with one last comment, and that was finally taking the first step. And really, that is the truth of the matter. It's like swimming. It's jumping in that. I don't know how many of you swim, but if you swim and you swim in the winter like an indoor pool, I know that's going to sound a little bit ridiculous, but you come out of the gym, you're in your bathing suit, you go and you put your toe in the water, and the water feels freezing because it's winter. The water's warm, but just the idea of getting in cool water when it's ice cold outside, the easiest way to do it is not to stick your toe in and then go from your toe to your knee, from your knee to your thigh. It's jump in the water. It's just get in and get wet, go under. I'm a swimmer, and that's what I have always found. If I try to get in the water easy, I'll sit there with my feet dangling in the pool for a while before I actually jump in. The easiest way is just get in. It's like ripping the Band-Aid off. So, Darlene, yes, taking that first step. Just take the first step. Talk to that first person. Open your mouth and start sharing this, and I think you may be very amazed where that process may go for you. Moving on from there, sales track training for this week, we were going to be talking about where do I find people to talk to. And so I'm going to bring up a couple ideas, and then I'm going to bring Darlene and Joan on, and then if you all want to type into the comments section of any areas. Now, what we're talking about is where do we find people that actually become viable clients? Where do, it's one thing to say, hey, I talked to the person in the grocery store, but have you ever pulled an actual client from the grocery store? I talk to people, when I go to the gas pump. Have you ever actually pulled a client from the gas pump? So what I want to do is I want to make this realistic. Yes, that has occurred. I've seen it occur. I've seen it occur when I've been on the road with someone and had them start a conversation with somebody in a convenience store at the gas station, getting my gas there. We're in the convenience store buying some snacks while the car's filling up, and they had somebody start a conversation, actually had that individual that they started the conversation with show up to a meeting. I've seen many people. I've seen Darlene in hotels where we're having meetings and talking to people and saying, yeah, just come in, and people come into the meeting to get that information. I've seen Joan do the same thing in Vegas. When she was living out there, this idea of the 3-foot rule of talking to everybody, yes, share the information, but where do we actually find the people? Well, one is make a list of the people you already know. It's a lot easier to get in touch with people that you already know, you already have some contact and relationship with, than it is to generate a whole new list. Go back to old lists. Go back to old analysis. Go back to the list you have in your agent portal. Until they tell you not to call them, just because last year it was a no, just because last year their situation didn't work out, does not mean the situation will not work out this year. Talk to everyone you know. This list should be every single person you know. This is step one on your sales track is make a list, and it should be everybody you know. We're going to probably say this 10 times in the course of this presentation. Do not make the decision on who should hear this information and who should not. Share it with everyone. Share it with anyone and everyone you know. Share it with your neighbors. Why? If you live in a community, you live in a home, then most likely any of the 30 homes within walking distance of your house probably have a mortgage. Get out. Go knock on doors. Find out who these people are if you don't already know them. If you've been living in the same town and you don't know who they are and you're not doing good in your business, this is probably part of the reason that you really haven't put yourself out there to get to know people and make yourself vulnerable in that. So your neighbors is a good place. Where do you frequent? What are the areas that you go to the most frequently? Do you bowl in a league? Do you shoot pool somewhere? Do you like to throw darts? Do you do arts and crafts with a certain group of people on a certain day during the week? Are you in a Bible study? Are you in a book club? Are you in a wine tasting club? Do you have a certain group of friends that you meet with every now and then just to talk it over? Do you have a coffee shop you meet with for lunch and a couple people? And, where do you frequent? Where are the people? Do you have a child that you're now going to, a skating rink, or you're going to baseball practice, or you're going to the local elementary, junior high, or high school? You're involved in that. Has one of your children entered into college or entered into a vocation? Where do you frequent? Where do the people you know frequent? Where are you going to find these people? Who does your taxes? There is an absolute gold mine. If you can get the person that does your taxes, it's not you, to see this and understand what this is, you could have a stream of referrals just from the individual that is doing your taxes. They have massive clients, a good client base, and people that do other people's taxes are trusted by those other people. So what do you do? Where do you bank? Have you discussed this with your banker? Have you shown this to your teller, to the loan officer? Have you tried to talk to the branch manager of the bank? Are you sharing this with anyone and everyone you know? Now, I know I'm not going to hit every point, so I'm going to leave some points open for Darlene and some points open for Dr. Joan. My end of this little piece is anyone who will listen is who you should be speaking to. It's anyone that'll listen. If you start talking about, man, doesn't where do you think the economy's headed right now? We've had some great time with the economy here over the past couple of years. We've seen interest rates go down. We've seen investments. We've seen Wall Street, the Dow. We've seen all that go up over the past couple of years. But we always know that things move in a wave. What are you excited about? What are you planning for in your future? What do you think about our current economy? What do you think about the current indebted situation of $22 trillion of debt? What do you think about the idea of building the wall versus getting the government running again? It's just, there's so much going on today. There's so much information out there that you can segue with individuals into this information. So with that having been said, I want to move over to Dr. Joan. And Dr. Joan, I know that you built the majority of your business on recruiting. You are an individual that recruits to sell, and the lion's share of your deals are deals that you turn over to the corporate office. So the lion's share of your focus is always in recruiting. And so I want to give you a couple minutes to share, where do you find people, Dr. Joan? Where is it that you go to get the people that you need to be able to expose to this program to get the deals done?
Great question. I do like to recruit first and sell second. My mindset is, who's my target market and where does my target market go? That's really what anybody should be asking themselves. Who's my target market, and then where does my target market go? I personally like to recruit realtors, loan officers, financial planners, and insurance agents. Those are my target markets. So I ask myself, where do they go? Well, a lot of them go to networking groups. So I attend a lot of networking groups. In fact, when I first became an agent years ago, it was really my first sales gig. I had never done anything in sales before. So my best friend and I went to 5 to 7 networking groups every single week. We overwhelmed ourselves. We then narrowed it down to about 2 to 3 networking groups that we went to on a regular basis, on a consistent basis, and we went to it regularly. And then we'd throw in the random ones here and there. But I built up an extremely large database going to networking groups. Now that said, remember that Max said make a list. That is absolutely true. But from here on out, that's just the start of your database. Anybody and everybody that you meet needs to go into that database, and that database needs to be growing regularly. So I grew a huge database by attending networking groups. So go to your local Chamber of Commerce, find out when they have their events, find out about LBN or BNI or meetups. Do some research, find out where those networking events are in your local area, and go to them. There's 2 main types of networking events. There's the sit-downs where everybody sits down and people stand up and do a little commercial, 30-second, 45 or 60-second commercial. And then they also have mixer types that are more like a party. So find out which one best matches your personality and go to them. Your purpose is not to sell them, as counterintuitive as that sounds. You're not there to sell. You're there to create relationships and to use that networking group as an extension of your sales force. It's so much better to get to their database than to sell that one individual. That's how I've done it for years and years and years. Now, I've done other things as well. As I mentioned, my target market happens to be realtors, loan officers, financial planners, and insurance agents. So I love to stop at open houses. When I see an open house, you're darn tootin', I'm going to be slamming on my brakes, doing a U-turn, getting over to that open house, because who's there but a realtor, and often other people in the house as well. And when you first walk into that open house, what is that realtor going to do? They're going to try to qualify you to determine if you are a good candidate to purchase their home. So they're going to ask you, what do you do for a living? Well, funny you should ask. And I'm going to speak loud enough that my voice projects throughout the house, so if there happens to be other looky-loos in the home, they can hear me as well. Hopefully I'm going to get the realtor interested. If the realtor's not interested, I likely will get somebody else in the house interested as well. I've had plenty of times where I've done those open houses, gone to them, and somebody else in the house may be interested and say, wow, that sounds really great. Could I have some more information? Well, of course you can. I go to career fairs. Who goes to a career fair? But people looking for an opportunity or looking for an additional source of income. So I get booths at local career fairs. I have booths at home shows. Who goes to home shows? Again, on the sales side of things, our target market, people that own homes, go to home shows. So I love having booths at career fairs and home shows. And then I also join professional seminars and associations. So I happen to be a realtor. I'm a real estate broker. I own a brokerage. So I am a part of the real estate brokerage out here in Michigan. I attend a lot of the seminars. I attend a lot of the events because who goes there? My target market, realtors. I stop at real estate brokerages. I'll door knock. I've done a lot of door knocking over my years. And probably another one that's been a very good success for me is actually wearing branded clothes. So I pretend to golf, and the emphasis is on pretend because I'm horrible. I am a horrible, horrible, horrible golfer, but I love to golf. So I have a lot of polo shirts. And my polo shirts, most of them say, got debt, transform your debt into wealth. Well, back in Vegas, I wore polo shirts year-round because it was easy to do. Out here, I can't wear them year-round, but when it is warming up, I'll wear them. And I get a lot of people, because I won't even be thinking about it. I'll be at a fair or at an event, and somebody will just say, got debt? I've got debt. And it's a great way to start the conversation. Now, again, out here, I can't wear my polo shirts year-round, so I also have name tags. My name tags say the same thing. So it will say, got debt, transform your debt into wealth. So I'm constantly wearing something that will help other people start the conversation with me if I happen to not start the conversation myself. So networking events, home shows, career fairs, open houses, calling on realtor signs, going to professional seminars and associations, door knocking, stopping at your target market's offices. All of these things are very solid ways to build your business. The networking, I cannot emphasize that enough. People will not know that you exist, so go to networking events. And most importantly, network on purpose and network everywhere. That 3-foot rule needs to be a part of who you are. Anybody and everybody that you know needs to know what you do for a living. Anybody and everybody within 3 feet of you needs to know what you do for a living. If you remember, Max said not so long ago that there are people that will get angry if you don't tell them what you do. That's very true. I've actually encountered that numerous times where people have said, why didn't you tell me this earlier? Because they've known I've used this for years. They've known that I've done this. Why didn't you start this conversation earlier? They've gotten mad. So network on purpose, network everywhere, and anybody and everybody that you meet here on out goes into that database. And you need to be touching on that database on a regular basis. Last thing, two more things I'm going to suggest. Create some email campaigns so that as you build your database, you can stay constantly in front of them. You can be deemed as the authority figure to those people that you're emailing. So give them good content with value on how you are the authority figure on paying down debt. The other thing that I was going to add on there, I can no longer remember. Shoot! It was, before you go to bed, depending on how much you're going to work on Worth Unlimited, select 1 to 5 people from that database that you're going to call on the next day to carry on that conversation. Obviously, during the course of your networking, during the course of you talking to other people, you're going to have a list of people that you need to follow up on because you're going to have scheduled appointments. But there are going to be some people that you didn't schedule appointments with, that you met just randomly along the way at networking events or whatever it may be. Choose some people the night before so that you have it set. I choose 5. I have the number 5 all over my office. I choose 5 people that I'm going to call the next day, and I pick up the phone and I call them. When you create that schedule that we were talking about earlier, make sure you follow it. If it's on your schedule to pick up the phone, make sure you do it. But follow up, follow up, follow up. No matter what you do in all of these networking activities, in all of the prospecting activities, you must follow up. So remember, network on purpose and network everywhere.
Fantastic, Dr. Joan. Thank you so much for that information. And as always, I mean, from Darlene and you both, just excellent information this evening. And that's odd that you finished on what you did. Well, not odd, I'm going to say, but very fortuitous that you finished up on what you said, because the next slide that I was going to finish out with this evening was fortune is in the follow-up. Verify each step of your process. Keep the prospect informed. Keep track of last communications, what was said, what was done. Escalate the importance of this situation as you go. Voicemail, text, and email. No is just no, not now. Fortune is always in the follow-up. These people that you meet, Joan mentioned that anyone and everyone you meet ought to go into your database. That is everyone, whether you think they're a good prospect or not. Again, remember, this is not about you deciding who should hear the information and who should not. This is absolutely a numbers type game. This is definitely a numbers business that we're dealing with. So stay to your process, trust your process, but always be following up with old clients, with new clients, with anyone that you meet, anyone that didn't go forward. Go back to your old list. I think this has been an excellent call. I don't have enough time to bring Darlene back on, but I want to thank Darlene so much for her information and her hard work and diligence. And Dr. Joan, thank you so much. And we'll pick up from here next week and finish out with fortune in the follow-up and move into 5 steps of success. And that'll be our next week's call. We'll be reviewing just about everything that we've talked about up to this point, kind of wrap things up a little bit before we move into recruiting. So I did just want to go to Darlene, and just Darlene, if you just have maybe 1 minute, because I don't want to keep people too long. I think you know how things were going,
okay.
But if you've got, yeah.
No, that's okay. I don't want to, I have things to say, but I will get on the next call. Okay?
Okay, awesome. All right, well, I thank you all so much for your time. I thank everybody for getting on the call this evening with us. I try to give everybody some equal time on these calls so that everybody has an equal amount of time with what they're doing. So thank you, Darlene. Thank you, Joan, very much for your time. Thank you, everyone who was on the call. And as I always in the calls, let's get out there and do it big. Let's get out there and do it right. But at the very least, let's get out there and do something right now. This is Max Saunders saying bye-bye for now.